Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are crime dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Equalizer Season 4, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. It's actually a really depressing opening, because I was like, are we really going to start with child death? It's like, luckily, in the grand scheme of things, the little girl, it's fine when it's all said and done. She's okay, but it's like, you have such a fun opening, they're dancing or recording it, and then she gets hit by a car. It's like, Jesus, that's dark. Once again, would it be even darker if she died? But it doesn't make it, it makes it less dark, but it's still pretty dark. It's interesting, too, because obviously that being a thread that plays throughout the episode in so many regards, not just with Robin's circumstances, but even plays a role a little bit in Dante's situation. It's interesting how that parental thread ends up being. We'll kind of break that down more, but obviously the little girl's mom visited Robin and just wants justice for her child. It seemed like it was a street race. Things went wrong, and it was a hit and run. And she just wants justice for her little girl, because it's still touch and go on whether her little girl is going to make it or not. And she just, it's like the police can't really do anything right now, but it's like, Robin can. And it's just Robin's like, what you can do right now is you can go be by your daughter's side. When she wakes up, you be the first face that she sees. Like that, obviously Robin's speaking from one parent to another. Really quickly, I was wondering the entire time. I was like, every time I was looking at the actress who plays the mom, I was like, why does she look so familiar? It turns out it's the actress who plays Weecha in The Blacklist, which is interesting too, because obviously Hisham Tawfiq, I'm probably butchering his name, who played Dinbei in The Blacklist, is also in this episode. It's always funny with stuff. It's like, oh, you were in this show together, but now you're in this other thing together, and you don't have a single scene together, because her character and his character never interact the entire episode. So it's just, I always say stuff like that's funny and interesting. But either way, the actress who plays the mom, I'm probably going to, her name is spelled Diany, Rodriguez. I'm like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a different way of spelling Danny, or is it supposed to be pronounced like Diani? I don't know. Either way, I wasn't expecting the story to kind of take the turns that it was going to take it, because obviously it's it turned. Oh, initially we look into it, like I said, it seems like it's street racing. Dante and Robin end up at a chop shop, where they find out, the guy, one of the people that was, in the race, who's at the chop shop, he was kind of the aggressor, so he's kind of the reason why the accident happened. But the other person, who we later on find out is named Ari, is the one responsible. But then he gets grabbed up, and you're like, where's this going? Because it turns out his father works for, he works for, at the Sudan consulate or something like that. Because at first you're like, okay, so he's not from here, so maybe he's a little confused. Afraid of, the ramifications being even bigger, not being from here and just kind of being afraid. They kind of touch on it a little bit, that he is, I think, it's supposed to be something that kind of plays a role in that too, is he is, I think, a little bit on the spectrum, and I think that kind of played a little role, I think, in his confusion about everything, and, it just, everything just, being, overwhelming, I think. But it turns out, I forgot what his father, who is Samir, who's played by Hasham, is part of some consulate, because the current person who's there is kind of a dictator or something, and he's kind of running things. And the moment Mel went to kind of talk to Ari's mom, the dad, as well as kind of Kenyi, who's kind of almost this bodyguard / assistant, kind of shut that down, and it's what's going on here? They definitely know more, because the moment Samir found out, he immediately left, and I was like, is this a ransom situation? Because your son did get grabbed. So I'm like, is that where this is going? And it kind of is, but it turns out there's even more to it, because Kenya ended up getting shot and killed because whatever was going on turned sideways, and basically Rob and Mel got Samir's wife, Hiba, to show up, because it's he's not talking because he's like, right, he's got diplomatic immunity, so he's not really answering any questions until she confronts him. Turns out he was trying to make a deal to get his family away from the circumstances. Like, this guy that's kind of like a dictator here in Sudan, like, he wipes out anyone he considers an enemy. So, like, you always have to be, like, so worried about being labeled a traitor and end up being killed. He tried to get his family out of those circumstances. He stole, like, a very like a royal treasure type of diamond, and he was going to sell it, and that was going to be a new start for him, his wife, and his son. But he stashed the diamond in the car, Ari's car, and so that's why he immediately was like, wait, where's the car? And Heba was like, why are you asking about the car first rather than our son? I initially thought maybe that had something to do with potentially the ransom, which it kind of does, but I thought the car was like, maybe there was like drugs or something in it, and that's what this was about. Never would have expected like a $7 million diamond was what this was kind of about. But yeah, Kenya's the one that set up the deal, but the diamond, like the people that took Ari or promised this diamond, and that's why they took Ari, because they're like, oh, give me the diamond. They're looking for the car now because the diamond's somewhere there. So that, once again, just not what I expected that storyline to eventually turn into, to find out that that's what this was all about. The people behind it are like people from like a British royal guard or some sort. They're basically British soldiers that turned bad, essentially, and went down the criminal route. Hell, they even ended up killing one of the main racing dude from the other car, which we met earlier in the episode. He ends up getting killed because they found out that, right, you guys potentially had the car, because Ari won't like give any information away about the car, because he also recognizes, like, if I give you this information and you find whatever you're looking for related to this car, because he doesn't know about the diamond, he just knows about the car, and it's like, if I give you this information, I'm as good as dead. This is the only thing keeping me alive. A home dude that was kind of a twist where he got shot, because I obviously Robin's initially thinking like, oh my god, it's Ari. I was like, did they really just shoot him? I was like, is he dead? But it's like, no, the other dude is dead. I was like, oh, I guess you could make the argument that's cosmic irony and poetic, because he's the one that kind of smashed into Ari and led to the little girl getting hit, so it's almost like poetic in some shape or form. So that was an interesting development. Also, the other dude gets killed too, because the moment he finds out, my boy got killed, and he strolls in, shotgun in hand, tries to like fight these people who are armed to the teeth, and he gets lit up and killed. I'm like, Jesus, that didn't go the way he thought. Like, he thought he was going to storm in there and handle business. He didn't know who he was, because they didn't let him know, like, I mean, the squad, our team, the equalizing team, knows, like, oh, they're armed to the teeth, we're outnumbered, outgunned. He just went blazing in and, like, got riddled with bullets and dead. It's like, wow, wasn't expecting when we got introduced to them in the beginning of the episode that they'd be dead. It's like, wow. Because the whole point was, hey, we're not going to mess up your chop shop. We're not here for your business. We're just here trying to figure this whole situation out, and we'll leave you alone. And it's like, nah, that's kind of a moot point. I mean, they're the only ones we saw. I'm sure there's other people besides them and Christine who work at the chop shop, but still, that was kind of another development I wasn't expecting. But luckily, when it was all said and done, they were able to save Ari. But now it's like, okay, because of the diplomatic immunity, he won't suffer any ramifications. But they can't necessarily go back to their country, to Sudan, because it's like, if they do, the person in charge will most likely kill them. It's like, well, there's also the element of, yeah, we could try, like, Heba was saying, like, oh, we could, like, work it off. But Samir's like, no, we can't, because if we do, we'll probably be working for the rest of our lives, never being able to pay it off. It's one of those things that also punish you too. So, but I think it's also like the goalpost would always probably get moved of you'll never make enough to fully pay it off. And even if you did, they'd probably just move the goalpost. So it's like, right, you could always risk going back, but potentially having your family killed, or you could renounce your, situation there and kind of stay here, but it would mean Ari would have to face the consequences of what he did, which he's willing to, because it's like, right, I did a bad thing, plus I don't want my family to put themselves in danger just to protect me. And he goes and meets with the mom and comes to see the little girl, and he's like, I'm sorry, and he apologizes, and she handled that situation very amicably considering the circumstances, because like at the end of the day my little girl's alive, plus Robin told me your circumstances, and for her it's like I don't want to be the person who rips away another mother's child from them. It's like you, like I heard about your circumstances and you potentially going to jail for a long time. It's just like I don't want to put a mother through that. I already know that pain. I don't want to inflict that. Even what you've done, you are apologetic. It wasn't 100% your fault, and you are here taking responsibility. That speaks volumes about your character, but also what Robin says. It's like it still like, you know, they were saying at the end that he still would probably get some sentence of some sort, but most likely it will be like a probation type of situation. So it's a silver lining to the whole situation. But like I said, even having the strength to meet the person who like ran your daughter down and ran, like regardless of their circumstances, like having the composure enough. I mean, granted, Robin explained all this beforehand, so she probably was able to kind of vent some of those frustrations she might have had, but it's just to have that consciousness and awareness to be like, all right, I'm gonna try and look at this objectively. Like, I'm not gonna let my feelings affect me too much. But I mean, to be fair, her feelings are also why she decided to not press charges against Ari, because it's like, as a mother, you know, I would empathize and not want to put another mother through something like that, of like potentially losing their child and their baby. So, you know, I thought that was interesting. That's why I was talking about like this parental through line, especially when it comes to the mothers. The mothers are the like key factors in this episode, whether it's, like I said, Robin, I believe the Lachey is the character's name, the mom whose little girl got hit, and then also Heba. So that through line I thought was kind of pretty neat. So, and like I said, that kind of factors into the other elements of the episode, where we're picking up after last episode where Briggs was talking to Delilah about the military and stuff, and she's a lot more inquisitive about it. She's asking her mom about her like military service, where she joined would be a better fit. Obviously Robin's not too keen on it. It's understandable you would have that perspective of, she has a very complicated relationship. I think it's more so the institutional elements to it. And I think her issue is mainly with the CIA, not as much the military. It's more so like when it comes, like, I think for her, it's like, I didn't have any options, and the military served me and made me the person and the woman I am today. But I also, and that ends up being a conversation that Vi has about it later on, of like, Rob did what she did so she wouldn't have, so that Delilah wouldn't have to be in that situation, that she would have choices. And at the end of the day is Delilah's choice of wanting to join the military. And so they ended up setting up this whole thing to have Briggs basically scare her to not want to join the military, which Delilah immediately saw through it. It's like, oh, I just brought up I want to join the military. Briggs just happens to step by and tells these horror stories. But for her, at the end of the day, it's like, this is my decision, and you're telling me to make decisions on my own, but how can I do that when you immediately try to shoot down any decision I try to make of my own? Like, this is the part of growing up and stuff. And so her and Vi talk it out later on, and it's just, for her, it's like, her mom joining the military made her the person she is, and the fact is, she's out there every day now fighting for those who can't defend themselves. And she's like, even Briggs' story kind of had that adverse effect. Yes, there are the scary aspects of, like, you know, being in battle, like in situations like that, like there can be scary situations. There's a chance you could die and stuff. But she took away, more so than anything, is Briggs and his people saved a village of refugees. And it's like, without Briggs, like, yeah, he might have died he could have died in the process, and people around him did. But if it wasn't for them, the people in that village wouldn't be okay. And she was especially coming from the perspective of all that she's learned from her mom and Mel, of, you know, her acknowledgement, her knowledge now, her skills. Like, I have the know-how that puts me above the average person. And like, wouldn't it be wrong? Like, all that was taught to her for the purposes of being able to defend herself, considering how chaotic their lives are and how danger could find its way home to her, and she can be able to protect herself. But like, I have this knowledge. Shouldn't I use that to help people just like my mom does? Like, if I don't do what I do, there could be so many people I could help. I could help those who can't be, that no one else is willing to help. Very much like in her mom. So it's this interesting, complicated catch-22 of you being the honorable, helpful person that you are is inspired. I mean, that's supposed to be the thing. Like, as the Equalizer, Rob and the squad, they do inspire so many people. They help so many people. So you not wanting your daughter to help someone, it's like, it's like you can look at it from a pessimistic standpoint like that, but it's from a place of you're a parent. You don't want your child to get hurt. This is someone you love and care about. You know the dangers that can be coming from joining the military. It's like, yeah, the military did good for me, but it's like, I don't want you to have to go through that. I want you to be able to take a job that's safe because you're my baby girl. And it's just that thing of, even that last line of the episode where Dee was like, oh, like, what are we going to watch? What are we watching? And then Rob just says, watching you grow up way too fast. It's just like that line speaks so many volumes. I mean, it's just the antithesis of everything. So it was kind of something that Rob has to come to terms with, just like the whole training Delilah situation is something she had to come to terms with. And it's like, will she change her mind on this? Like, she's always going to have her concerns, but what Vi said to her, like, yeah, this is something you can't decide. This is Delilah's decision at the end of the day. All we can do is support her and be understanding of her choice. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it. And also in the Vi conversation, what's also interesting too is her like constantly rescheduling with Trish, and you're like, what's that about? I'm like, are you guys in a bad place or something? But it seems like it's more so their lifestyle. It's like their life being what it is. She's like, well, if I asked Trish over or whatever, she would have seen Briggs here asking like, why is this high level military dude like in your so there's that aspect of bringing someone from the outside into their situation. It's like, even though her and Trish have been going out for a while, it's still a thing of, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. And it's just, Rob had to lie to Delilah and Vi for so long, and now it's like when you bring someone from the outside in, it is that thing of juggling that. I wonder if there's more to it. That's all Vi's explanation. I wonder is there more to it or not. So that's probably going to cause some complications later on, because it is that thing of Vi's going to start juggling stuff, because it's like, right, what was kind of initially just Rob's secret has now become your secret, and it can mess with your life. Like, Delilah doesn't have to worry about that as much. I mean, it hasn't really come up in the show of like, oh, what does your mom do exactly? I mean, that was kind of dealt with earlier on in the show when it was kind of like, Rob still lying to everyone about it, but that hasn't really interfered too much with Delilah's personal life. Kind of has with Vi. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see, especially because Vi had that conversation, I think it was last episode, about like life kind of like, it's in the aftermath of season 3's finale, there was a conversation of, like life, can take just when you're down and out, life could just always swing around and you could be on the upside again. And for her, that was living with Rob and Delilah. That kind of changed things for her. So it is a situation of, what's life going to be like when Delilah eventually moves out? It's just going to be her and Rob, but I mean, even that's not going to be forever. So that's going to be an interesting thing, especially considering Vi was saying that Delilah, it's kind of like, right, Delilah takes precedence, but it's like, yeah, but you also got to contend with your own happiness too. That's very important. Like, you can only be there for Delilah if you're able to be there for yourself. You got to take care of yourself first before you can fully dedicate yourself to taking care of someone else. It's easier to kind of take care of someone else rather than kind of having to deal with you sometimes. So that's going to be interesting to see where that all goes. As I was talking about before, like, I brought Dante up in the parent conversation because he's dealing with, right, his dad wants to spend more time with his grandchildren, and it's like trying to debate that, because it's like, right, I've already accepted my father for all his flaws and how he let me down, and he hasn't gotten to that point yet with his grandkids, but I know it's only a matter of time, and they look up to him and they admire him, and it's like, I don't want them to be brokenhearted like I did. I mean, it led to him and his father having the tumultuous relationship they did. I mean, granted, there's other factors to that, but still, he doesn't want his children to kind of grow up with that, And he's like, he let me down so many times. I know it's only a matter of time. If I give it an inch, he's going to take a mile, and he's going to end up breaking those kids' heart, and I don't want that. But he's, he gives them a PS5 and everything. It's, oh, God, it's Grand Theft Auto, and it's like, it's hard to say what Marcus was fully thinking in that moment, where it's just kind of like, okay, all right, you're gifting them something, but it's also like, yeah, but it's like, that's your way to kind of weasel back into it. Like, I kind of said, like, no, like, I'm the one that kind of stipulate when you can and cannot meet with them. but it's also the thing of like he is trying, so that matters. But the approach there's like it's not clear 100% what Marcus has on his head. I think in his mind, I think he is. I mean, I think at best you could say he is conflicted, not quite sure what the thing to do in this moment, especially because his I think it was his oldest asking like, "Yo, when's Grandpa like stopping by again?" So. Another element to this episode I really liked too was the whole Harry situation where he's got this program called Mail, which I was like, oh, that's sweet. I took it in a very sweet way where it's like Mail was kind of like, oh, that's kind of creepy. But it's like, yeah, this automatic program. It's like, yeah, like the mundane stuff I do, it actually does it for me. And it seemed like it's working fine until like it started having some hiccups over the course of the episode and things not working out the way they're supposed to. But it turns out the reason why Harry cares so much, it was actually a really sweet, endearing moment at the end of the episode where it's like, right, last episode, well, the season 3 finale / last episode put things in perspective of, yeah, we almost got burned to death, because of the whole Michelle situation. And because of that, it's like doing what I do, that could end up taking up so much time. But if we can make it automated, it could be something that, like the mundane stuff that I do, like that could all be handled while I'm out there in the field with you guys. I could be your backup if you need it in case anything ever happens, like said situation beforehand, like you having someone to back you up. So it's just like, yeah, he loves her a lot and just wants to be able to make sure that she's okay, considering like her and Rob are out there in the field, and it's always nice to have an extra hand backing you up. But it's like if I'm always like the man in the seat and the man in the chair, like away from the situation, like I can't always back you up as quickly, so I thought that was just kind of a beautiful like not resolution, but just kind of thread for that story to be what it is. And I'm sure we're going to continue that throughout the season, that particular thread. So I just thought that was kind of pretty neat. So I'm curious to see where that goes, curious to see where all of this ends up I was about to wrap up, but I was like, there is a thread from the main overarching story I forgot to talk about, and that's Christine herself. That was kind of I was curious where that thread was going, especially when Rob made such a point of like, hey, I was you at one point in time, like you have other options. Obviously she's coming at it from like just the same perspective she's coming at with Delilah. Granted, like this is more so like when she looks at Christine, she ain't really just seeing Delilah, she's more so seeing a younger version of herself. So feels very poetic. And Christine, like, was the one who, obviously, she's the one that liked Ari. They actually spent a lot more time together than she let on. But she's the one that accidentally found the diamond. Because it felt like she knew. Like, the moment they didn't know where the car was. But it's like, right, she put a tracker on it because that's what they do. Put trackers on vehicles and they later on track them down and break them down, chop them up for parts, obviously. But she knew about the diamond and no one else did. And the reason why is because she found it. And it was going to be her way out. Just like Samir was trying to have the diamond be his way out for his family. Christine was in the same boat of like, yeah, like a golden opportunity presented itself and she leapt on it. But the moment things started spiraling out by the time it's like, okay, I wanted to put the diamond back, but it's like stuff like went so fast I never had an opportunity to. And it's like, yeah, like she felt bad about it, which, Rob, it's like, I get it. Because you're a good person. The fact is that tries to, it's like this way of life, it isn't going to be good. As you can already see, like 2 people who are in this field with you died this episode. So it kind of puts things in perspective even more so. But Rob's like, if you ever need me, you like reach out to me. And I can help, like, try and, it's never too late. Well, it can be too late, but you need to go while you have the opportunity to, like, figure stuff out. And I think it's so interesting. There was in the previous season or so, I want to say it was like might have been season 2. I don't think it was a season 3 storyline. There was a girl that Rob helped. Like, she was in like 2 or 3 episodes. I believe, if I remember correctly, if you've seen Hightown, it's the actress who plays Charmaine. Like, her and Rob met while she was in jail. But she was also in like a 2nd episode, I believe. There's at least 2 or 3 episodes she was in totality. So I'm wondering, is Christine going to be in that same boat or will we not? I mean, that's always the thing. Like, any one of these people could potentially pop up again, but maybe it's just a situation of, it's just a one and done. It's just the door will always be open, but I don't know if we're going to see Christine again, and if we do, like, is it because, like, shit kind of, like, she tried to go right in life, and then, like, she tried to go left in the decision, like, try to be on the right side of things, but then things went sideways or something like that, and that's how her and Rob get involved again. Maybe that's how that happens. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see whether that ends up that storyline beat in particular circles back around. And I referenced it a little bit talking about Michelle. We find out it's been like a couple months since episode 1, and Michelle's still out there in the wind, which Rob is like, I know that she's not the type to give up, especially dead set on revenge like she is. So Briggs is like, she might be out of the country, but Rob doesn't think so. She's probably laying low, just waiting for her opportunity to strike. So it does seem, I was curious, I was like, oh, okay, is that being wrapped up? But it's like, no, Michelle does seem like she is going to be the overarching threat this season. But it's going to be probably sprinkled in over the course of the season. So maybe midway through we tackle that a little bit more. Maybe like I said, we'll sprinkle in some stuff, but it probably won't be till the end of the season. Well, definitely at the end of the season where it all culminates. But it's just going to be interesting to see like how much, first and foremost, like how much Michelle we get over the course of the season, and how much of this is just like, does she join forces with someone else that's like a powerful organization that can help her? Or does she just amass power on her own to kind of enact her revenge? It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But obviously, I'm getting to this pretty late. There's episode 3 is already out. Obviously, this should be going up tomorrow, but which will be today when you're hearing this. Obviously, episode 4 is going to be this week because there wasn't an episode last week. But either way, I'm excited to see where all this takes us going forward in episode 3 and beyond. But really, that's all I want to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy. Be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.